Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today I'm going to be walking you through the secrets on how to make some dark beats. But before we get into the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and of course we're on the way to 1.5k subs, so all the support is appreciated. But on me guys, I've got a new free drum kit, link is in the description in my Instagram, and I've got a bunch of other drum kits in the description for you on me for free, so go ahead and grab those. And now let's just jump into the video. First thing to note, we're starting off in G minor, but this does change later on in the video, and it's done at 154 BPM. But for the first VST that we are using, it's a pretty nice VST called Scorch, has a lot of dark sounds, and I am using a synth called the SynthPad Jazz Omen. And as you can see from this little wheel in the center, if you just change it about and look at the bottom left, it's different types of effects that come in and out, and you can choose them as you will, so it gives a lot of variation to all the presets within the plugin. And now to break down the pattern, which is pretty simple and straightforward. It's a nice chord progression, as we can see over here, that repeats every 4 bar. To add to the dark aesthetic, it is very important to have these notes over here and these notes down here, which are 1 semitone apart within a scale, giving it a very nice dark sound and providing some tension, which is what we need. Then the next thing I actually did for the sound was I went into the playlist, have this little thing up here, right click it and click quick render as audio clip. Once I did that, I obviously just rendered the clip as an audio file, and then all I do is go into declicking mode, click generic bleeding, so when I play them back to back there's no clicking sounds. Then I click reverse to, of course, reverse the sample, and then using the time knob I actually double time this whole sample, just speeding it up a bit, and of course I just copy and paste it across. So there we have it, the full 8 bar of the main sample, and this is what the pad sounds like. And there we have it. Now of course for the effects, the first thing I did was get an EQ and used it to cut off all the lows. Then I got this little Soothe 2 preset called the Synth Mid Cleanup, and this is just acting as a compressor for all the harsher frequencies. Then the next thing I did was add an instance of Portal with a preset called Grace, just to add a bit of ear candy to the whole melody and give it a bit of an extra dark undertone. Then to Valhalla Vintage Verb, of course, because we like to have that ambient and that reverb just to really space the sound out. And last but not least, I stereo separated it around 30% just to widen it within your headphones or in your monitors, however you're listening to this video. Next up within the sample, I used a VST called Piano V3, and I'm using a preset called the German Classical Clean. Of course, if you don't have this VST, you can just use any piano sound if you please. And looking at the pattern for these dark beats, it's very simple and straightforward. Just following the main root note and creating these nice little stabbing notes with the piano, as we can see on this octave and this octave. Then just copy and paste it 3 more times, create a full 8 bar, and that's pretty much it. So without further ado, this is what the piano sounds like. And there we have it. As for the effects, it was pretty straightforward. Got a nice little EQ cutting down these lows and ducking and increasing some frequencies along the way. And next up, I got myself an instance of Valhalla Vintage Verb again, just to add some ambience and of course that reverb. And now for the next sound, we're using a sound called the bell, which is that tubular bell we all know and love. And this is from my free drum kit, so of course, go grab that. But same as the piano, hit at the beginning of every 2 bar, nice, simple, straightforward, giving it an extra dark undertone, really providing that kind of vibe that we're looking for. And that's pretty much it. So this is what the bell sounds like. And there you have it. Very nice, very hard, and it really layers well with that piano. As for the effects, very similar to the piano. Got an EQ cutting off some lows, and then I'm ducking some highs because, didn't like the sound. And then I added a fair bit of reverb using this preset that I made on Valhalla Vintage Verb. And last but not least, I stereo separated the sound 100% just to make it super wide within the headphones and give it kind of like a grand hit. And next up, I used an instance of Kontakt 7 with a bank called Vocalize 3, the Gravity Pack 8, with a preset called the Melodic Phrases in the A minor, but we were doing this in G of course, so looking over here I just took it down 2 semitones to turn it into a G. But if you guys don't have access to the plugin or sounds like this, you can really much just go on Reddit or go on Looperman, grab yourself some nice vocal samples, or even on YouTube, and use them for your beats, because they really are popping off nowadays. And all I did, again, keeping it simple and keeping it straightforward, essential for these dark beats, starting off with this nice little note playing over here, and then down over here for the end of the 4-bar. Then I copy and paste it over again to make it a full 8. Very straightforward, a nice little vocal run for a bit of an effect. And this is what it sounds like. And there you have it. As for the effects, all I did was get an EQ and add this nice little kind of like telephone EQ where it's coming off all these highs and lows, giving it kind of like a nice little low pass sound. And the next thing I did was I added Valhalla Vintage Reverb with a heavy amount of reverb, just to really drown the sound out and give that nice little dark undertone again. And now, last but not least for the sample, we have got ourselves an instance of Omnisphere, and I am using a preset called the Ambient Space Piano, which is found in the Keyboards Bank. Now, looking at the pattern, I am using that statement that I said earlier, which is using notes which are 1 semitone apart, and as we can see, this pretty much applies to almost all of these notes, which are the red highlighted ones. For the pattern, it is simple and straightforward. It's this 4-bar which just repeats over here, but the only bit of variation, as we can see, is in these red highlighted notes, which just, provides some variation. As for the effects on the sound, all I did was get an EQ, cut off all my lows, and duck a few of the highs. And then I added some Valhalla Vintage Reverb, again, just to create that ambient and dark spacey sound. And last but not least, I stereo separated the sound 34%, just to widen it a bit within the headphones. Finally, before I actually played the sample, what I actually did was render it all out 6 semitones below its original pitch, which takes it down from a G minor into the C sharp minor. And as we can see, this is the final sample that we've got, and this is what it sounds like. And there you have it. Very nice, very dark, and it's exactly what we're looking for. And now it's time to move to the drums, and to start it off, we are using this nice little snare in a very simple snare pattern, which we all know and love and are used to. Very nice, straightforward. And now for the hi-hats. So looking at this pattern, it is very simple and straightforward, which again fits the theme of making these dark beats. And it all starts off with this nice little 4-bar at the beginning. So if we look into it and I remove all the highlighted parts, this and this play pretty much at the exact same point in each 2-bar. So there's a bit of repetition. Then for this roll down here, I go up onto the magnet tool, go into half step, and if we zoom in, these are all the notes that I placed, and a really quick and effective way of doing that. If you click a standard hi-hat, then use this paintbrush tool up here. If you just click and drag, as you can see, places the notes very simple and easy for you. But if you want to mess around with the pitch as well, all you have to do is hold shift whilst using the paintbrush, and as you can see, it places the notes at whatever pitch you want it to be in. I got another roll going here, of course, for the second part of this 4-bar. And then all I did was copy and paste it to make it a full 8. And now this is what the hi-hats and the snare sound like. And there you have it. But one last thing to point out about these hi-hats, if you go into the control panel down here, click on it and click note pan, as you can see, all of these notes that have been highlighted have been panned a bit to the left, just to give it a bit of variation and a bit of ear candy for the listener. And next up, of course, we got ourselves an instance of the Spins 808. I'm looking at the pattern, very simple and straightforward yet again. It's a nice little 4-bar which repeats itself for a full 8, leaving a lot of space in between the 808s just to make sure it hits much harder in these dark beats. And the final thing to note, which applies to my 808 and my kicks, is to max your velocities out, and the way you do that is by clicking Ctrl A, highlighting all the notes, and grabbing your mouse and clicking onto the scroller wheel. If you push it all the way up, as you can see down below, it pretty much maxes your velocities out, and it makes your kicks, your 808s much punchier, and it's more appealing to producers, artists, and listeners of your beat. And for the kick, all I did was follow the 808 pattern, pretty much keeping it straightforward, as well as that having the velocities maxed out. So without further ado, this is what my 808 and my kicks sound like. And now, last but not least, it's time to run through the perks which I used in this beat. Again, all from my kit, free for you guys. And first starting off, we got ourselves a nice little zap perk. comes in every 4 bar. Nice little roll that goes on here, and of course for the second half of the 8 bar. Then we got ourselves another perk called Runner Fade, and this occurs every single 4 bar. Just keeping these perks spaced out, really important in these dark beats. And you know what this perk sounds like, you've heard it before. There you have it. And last but not least, we got ourselves a What Is This perk. Comes in at the end of every 4 bar. Very simple, again very hard on the beat. Sounds like this. And when I play the full beat, you'll hear how these sounds are very much panned out, giving it a bit more ear candy to the listener. But without further ado, this is what the full beat sounds like. And there we have it. But before I wrap up this video, I'm gonna go walk you through the beat structure. Looking at the structure, if we first focus on this first 8 bar, it pretty much is that nice little pad alongside the bell and the piano. And coming into the chorus, which is essentially 2 8 bars, we first begin with the piano alongside the main pad. But for the drums, we've got all of this nice little sounds playing in, such as the snare, the hi-hats, the kick, 808 alongside some of the perks. But for the second 8 bar, I then introduced that nice little high-end key alongside the bell with the extra perk that was missing prior, just for a bit of variation. Then looking at the verse section, this comprises of 3 8 bars in total. And to break it down, if we look at the first 8 bar over here, it's essentially the sample with the piano alongside all the essential drums, but I removed that kick and some of the other perks. But then for the second 8 bar, this is usually like the big part of the verse, so you want to kind of introduce a lot of the instruments, and all I do is add that bell in again, then have all the drums playing together alongside it. And for the final 8 bar, I now introduce the nice little vocal phrase that was played before, new component to the beat so it keeps the listener on their toes, and I strip away all the drums apart from the 808 and the snare, which come halfway through. Reason I've done this is because the last 8 bars are usually known as the pre-hook or the pre-chorus, and this essentially states that you want to kind of build into the chorus, so leave a lot of space for the artist to do his thing. All I do is copy and paste the chorus again, as we can see over here, and at the very end yet again. But because it's the final chorus, I kind of introduce this nice little vocal chop, which I found very hard, bit of variation again. And then of course with the highlighted part over here, I've got myself another verse section playing, making it a total of 1 intro, 2 verses and 3 choruses. And there you have it guys. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe on the way to 2K subs, so all support is appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.